Hello there and welcome this wonderful Friday afternoon to our Friday's LinkedIn Live from Virtual Space Hero. Welcome everybody. And I hope you're as excited as I am. You know that we're continuing our topic from last week. We felt super honored at Virtual Space Hero that Henry Libmanowitz himself personally joined us last week to discuss with us liberating structures. I told you that I've been researching new ways of working for the past 10 years, and I'm super interested in the topic, but not only from an organizational point of view, like how do we structure organizations or how do we lead and communicate, but also how do we facilitate meetings, events in our organizations. And only this year, I discovered liberating structures. It was a tremendous year because through all the virtual waves that were going on, I connected with so many facilitators from across the globe, among them Joshua Davis, who also was a guest on my show. We had a tremendous conversation about how to structure your trainings and how to facilitate online. And when he talked to me, he also mentioned liberating structures. And then I remembered Kevon. Kevon is the founder of Toasty, a beautiful workshop tool as well that I definitely recommend you to check out. He also told me that they're trying to build in to their tool liberating structures as a philosophy, to say so. And then beginning of this year, I started investigating liberating structures. I learned them, I started using them. And last week, I felt so honored because Henry joined me here for a very meaningful conversation. So at this point, thanks again very much, Henry, for joining me. And today we're continuing the journey because, liberating structure, Virtual Space Hero is all about the virtual space, right? So I am, of course, super interested in talking to those facilitators who were able to immediately transform liberating structures into an online setting. And I'm really super happy because today I have an amazing facilitator with me who is joining from almost the other part of the world, and it is Isman Tanuri, and I'm opening the virtual doors for Isman. Hi there.
Hi, hello Barbara, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining. It's already night over there, right?
It is almost close to my bedtime, and typically this is my Netflix hour. I'm
So thank
sacrificing
you so
Netflix
much.
for this.
Netflix versus Virtual Space Hero, and we won. So I feel honored again. Incredible. Thank you so much for being with us here. Isman, you know that we are streaming to 3 platforms. We discussed it already beforehand. We're streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and to YouTube as well. And so we are welcoming all our participants and viewers from out there. And I already see a few people are joining from DC. Unfortunately, we cannot see who it is. Whysoever, it seems to be anonymous here on the platform. But let us know where you are joining from. Type it into the chat, and we're going to pick up your comments, your questions, if you have any during the LinkedIn Live, but also your reflections or your practices. We would love to hear from you. So we see that there are a lot of people joining from the different platforms. Type in your comments, and we will pick them up. Well, Isman, so as I said, through Joshua, through Kevon, Liberating Structures, and when I asked Joshua, do you have any suggestion on how to invite to talk about liberating structures in the virtual space? It came like a pistol from him, like a gunshot. It is Isman Tanuri. And since then, we've been connected, and following you and your activities is really very intriguing for me. I learn a lot just by viewing your posts and participating in the discussions. Also, I'm a proud European member of the APAC Miro group, right?
Miro Group, yeah. And we have a session next week. Please come by.
I know, I know, I know. So also those of you who are interested to learn more about Miro, Isman and Joshua are the leading heroes of the Miro APAC group, the Asian group, where they always experiment with Miro, to say so, right?
Yeah. I mean, we believe in Singapore, we could say good things must share. So we are always sharing about Miro. We're always sharing about how to do liberating structure in the virtual space. So yeah, I mean, I think that's how we build strong community that supports each other. So yeah, happy to be here and happy to
Absolutely.
share. Yeah.
So if you are interested to also know more about Miro, know more about Isman, you know that in this post he is tagged. So connect with Isman and don't miss out his activities. But Isman, I really would love to know a bit more. I also just know a part of the story. How did you become familiar with, or how did you get in touch with liberating structures overall?
So the journey with liberating structures actually started, I think, for a while last year in Singapore. Within the agile community, like the idea of liberating structure became quite trendy, so to speak. So a lot of people were talking about it. I joined one of the meetup like after work, and oh wow, it's a completely new world for me as well. Like I'm a facilitator. I do something called Lego Serious Play. I do some of the agile ceremonies, but liberating structure simply open up a whole set of new tools that I can use to create fun and engaging, and most importantly effective events where outcomes the outcomes are mostly everyone is has been involved in the creation of the outcomes, and everyone feel like I'm going to commit to whatever outcomes that we have created together.
May I ask you something? So we also have the question from one of our viewers. Can you just recap what liberating structures is or does briefly?
Okay. It's I believe most of you might know that it is from a book called The Power of Liberating Structure by Henry Limanovic as well as Keith McCandless. It is how in a normal setting when we go to work in the office or in any organization, there are simply four different ways that we do conversation: meetings, brainstorming, reporting, and I always forget the last one. So this is kind of like super typical, right? But it gets really boring. It gets really, really, ineffective. Meetings go on and on and on, and nothing gets done. So the
Have you
idea,
heard? Have you heard about meeting by death or
meeting,
death by meeting? I think
yeah,
there was an article last year, death by meeting.
yeah, exactly right. You've been in there, I've been there, and it's just not productive for all of us. So, what is liberating structure? It is a collection of 33 different ways to run effective conversations, where most importantly, everyone gets a say. Everyone has the ability, is given the opportunity to speak their mind, to share their ideas. So it is democratizing the entire meeting process, the innovation process, the brainstorming process, and it's not always about the most senior person in the room who gets to talk. Living structure is about getting everyone to talk, and I think it's a much more beautiful way to do things.
Mm-hmm. The way I connected it with new ways of working so much is because liberating structures try to include all the people and enables conversation throughout hierarchies or throughout
Yeah.
maybe pre-established settings. And I think
Mm.
that's the beauty of it. And so for those of you, go to the webpage, liberatingstructures.com. You have 33 structures, meaning 33 different facilitation techniques, if I may
Mm.
summarize it
Yeah.
like that. And there's also a beautiful app that we looked at with Henry last week during the
Mm.
LinkedIn Live.
I may add, if you truly get down to buying the book and reading the book, you will realize that it's actually a leadership is a book on leadership. I thought when I first got the book for Liberating Structure, it is like a facilitation book, but it's not. It's a leadership book. In my day job, is actually, I have to facilitate leaders and teams in business agility, and I'm also a Management 3.0 consultant and facilitator. The thing is that this is the view, my view of leadership, and I believe the same view that Henry and Keith has as well. That the world is getting a lot more complicated, a lot more complex. The problems that we are trying to solve, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with wicked problems, right? Problem that simply has no answers. And our job as leaders and managers is truly not about doing the job, or quality management of the work, or telling people what to do, but it's truly about how do you facilitate people who has lots and lots of ideas, who have lots and lots of experience. How do you facilitate them coming together as a group, combining their abilities, their superpowers, to create solutions that are able to address all these complex problems that were probably not that didn't exist 30, 20 years ago. So it is
Mhm.
truly, living structure is truly tools for today, in
Mhm.
our complex times. Yeah.
I think that's such an important point that you're stating there, because we need to be aware that the moment that the environment changes, but we stay the same, whether we
Mhm.
lead, we communicate, we collaborate, something can't fit there, right? There must be a change as well inside the organizations, inside of us. And I just
Mm.
remember a beautiful quote that I always use when I talk about new ways of working, or the VUCA world. And it is from a professor from France. And he was saying the reason why organizations are failing is not because they try out the most whatever things. It's because they do the same things for too long. So it's efficiency versus being effective.
And I can remember one simple quote, like, we want improvement, we want new results, but yet we're doing the same thing over and over again. How do we expect something new, or new things to happen? And in management 3.0, we always say, if we are always doing best practices that other organizations are doing, or looking at the benchmark, that is pretty much doing the same thing that our competitors are doing. So we simply have to do something different. And then that's truly about how do you create an organization that is always learning, always experimenting, always
Mm-hmm.
doing something like liberating structure to get new ideas, to have
Mm-hmm.
new fun, in fact. Yeah.
Absolutely. Super cool. Isman, just let me check in. We have people joining from DC. We have Denmark here. We have a Colombian in Munich, Jimena. We have also Italy in there. Reka, hello and welcome. And so fantastic. Already seeing a lot of people joining from across the globe. So thank you very much. To clarify, we are going to use Miro today, Miro, Miro, as the app and the tool that Isman is the hero of here. So, Isman, let me ask you one short question. So, you have been starting to use liberating structures last year with the Munich group, you were saying, right?
It wasn't Munich group, like in person, like in person workshops. Yeah. So I found out when I went to an event with agile practitioners, and like, oh wow, this is kind of pretty cool. And I started to adapt those structures within my own workshops, combining them with other methods and other fun things. Yeah.
That is super cool. And so, what was your experience? So, you have been using, I've been using liberating structures only for half a year or something. So, what is your experience for the year that you have been using it? What changed, or what dynamics did you perceive in the in presence, but also in the virtual setting?
So it's so the thing that I kind of discovered is that real democratized, inclusive conversation has the same process, or has the same template. It always start with one. In that first step is always get everybody's idea out there first. Give that moment in time where everybody gets to contribute, and then you can, once these individual ideas are out there, and then you start the process, whatever that next step is. So having done that in person, and then suddenly having to shift into the virtual space where people are at home, in front of a computer, and there's a high chance that some people in the group or in the team will feel neglected, right? Because there's so many people trying to compete for, in some cases there are contributors in that meeting who are actually quite vocal or perhaps quite senior, and nobody else get to speak. So in that process, so the 1-2 for all, which is one of the most popular liberating structure process, having that, putting in a structure where, in a sense, it's quite firm. We always start with, everyone contributing their individual ideas first before we do whatever else we want to do. We want to do brainstorming. We want to do clustering. We want to do, we want to create, a framework, a poster, whatever it is. Let's get that first opinion. And I think, in the virtual space, it works beautifully. If you want, an inclusive conversation, you simply just have to have everyone speaking, giving that opportunity for everyone to speak. Yeah.
And I think, I think 1-2 for all. So for all of you out there, it's really one of the most simplest and easiest probably structures to start with is 1, 2, 4, and all. We're going to talk about that now in detail. But I also believe it's nice because it has at the beginning this self-reflective element for you in there. And we talked with Kevin from Toasty, we talked about it, that sometimes we feel like the pressure to always be talking, to always engage among each other, breakout rooms here, there, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But sometimes we forget, hey, there's also momentum and the importance of, well, get yourself together, get your own thoughts together, and then maybe only start talking. But before we continue, now we are going to go and have a look at the beautiful templates or the beautiful Miro walls that you created, right?
Yeah.
So Isman, maybe do you want to start sharing the 1-2 4 all structure and how you applied it in the virtual space? Is that okay with you?
Sure, let's do that. I'm going to share my screen, and you are going to see Miro. So it is Miro, not mural. So I prefer Miro. Not an
And here we
advertisement.
go. So
So
maybe can you add a few words about 1-2 4, what it is and how you facilitate it, what the idea is, and then we look at the Miro wall in detail.
Sure. So the what you're seeing, this is a space I created for for a design thinking workshop. So before we actually start, in this case, there are two activities here, which is defining the problem as well as creating the value proposition map. So the one process is simply a step one. So you throw out an idea, or rather you throw out a statement or a question. So what is truly the, for example, what is truly the problem of the customer? So step one is always about, okay, everybody take your own time, like what Barbara said, reflect, individually, what is that, what are all those problems, challenges that our customers are facing in your own space. So as you can see, I created a space like this, like with everybody's name on it, and they each have their own space where they can, pick up a sticky note in Miro like this. And then, okay, here's my idea one, and then my idea two, etc. Giving that moment for them to, fully focus on, what is that idea in their mind. In the virtual space, two is not impossible to create, but in real life, two is about, okay, you turn to a partner beside you, and you start to share your ideas. So this is step two. You start to share ideas. Some ideas are similar, so you want to like cluster them together. Some ideas are unique. So in that sense, you kind of you are able to come together and find all these ideas that are overlapping, that are unique, and then you can come to a consensus. Oh wow, because as we know, each and every one of us have only a sliver of a view of reality. We only know a bit of reality. Like it takes all of us, our combined knowledge, to create what is reality. So two is that. Four is the same thing. So the two and the other two, say it's a group of four, come together and see what are the ideas that are overlapping, what are the unique ideas, and kind of like create a bigger picture of some of the unique ideas, some of the ideas that are similar, and having a good sense of where this conversation is growing. If you have a bigger room with a group of 10 people or 12 people, the next step is when each group will present their ideas to the other group in the room. And if you go back to the office, I'm pretty sure you remember that 2 hour or 3 hour meeting, where nothing gets done and people are pretty lost and frustrated. I can tell you that using one tool for all, you can cut down that 3 hour meeting to 30 minutes. Literally, it can get done in 30 minutes. And that's the beauty of one to fall. It's truly one of the simplest liberating structure, and it's truly a much better way to have a conversation. Yeah.
That's also something I learned last week from Henry, that I wasn't aware of. That, for example, they were creating all the liberating structures also to look at it also from a time perspective. So, for example, they were using appreciative inquiry that can be a super long method or tool or instrument. And how do they call it? They don't call it appreciative inquiry, appreciative interview or something.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's something you can do in an hour or something, so or 1.5 hour. So I think that's also the beauty of it. Let's go back to the 1 to 4 liberating structures. So what I'm doing, and maybe we go a bit deeper into your beautiful board there. I'm just, for example, when I'm not using Miro, I just use a Google Slide or Google Doc, and I prepare that. And you can just do it as simply as using breakout sessions. You can have a first breakout session for only one person if that is needed, or you stay in the main room having everybody muted and thinking for themselves. Then you create a random breakout sessions with 2 people per room. They come back, that's how I do it. And then you create another one with 4 people per room. And then you ask them always to document it. And then they come back in the plenary, you can discuss it. And it's quite fast moving. Maybe it's also fast moving because I'm super fast. So it get all out of control with me.
Yeah.
But how do you use then Miro, for example, here?
In the process is the same. So in virtual, so I set up the spaces. I prepare everything up front, and then when it comes to running the process, it's simply creating the breakout rooms. And you do one. You don't have to go into the breakout room. When you get to 2 and 4, you start to put them into breakout rooms. If you are using Teams, it's amazing. Like how Teams. MS Teams have the unique URL. I simply put in. So this is. I can show you here on in the video. So simply, if you click on this join breakout room, it will open up MS Team meeting immediately. And it's a beautiful way to do this. So this is how I do it. In fact, one group like this can have 2 different breakout room. So it's truly about how you be creative with the tools that you have. Yeah.
It's also, you could also use what I sometimes use depending on the client. I use Jitsi. In Jitsi as well, you can create several rooms that works perfectly. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, we have there one comment, and that's really nice. Discovering liberating structures as a practice and the community of people who embrace it has been my absolute highlight of 2020. I'm going to also send a message to Henry. He will be really happy about hearing that. And also, maybe don't forget about checking the Slack channel. And if you go to the webpage of Liberating Structures, you will find everything there, liberatingstructures.com. You will find everything there, and it's really a tremendous community. So following Isman's example, everybody is as sharing is caring as he is here with us.
So the thing is that what's really beautiful about Liberating Structure and this movement that Henry and Kif develop is a sense that because it's kind of like super open source. If you go to the Liberating Structures website, it lists like what you want to do one to for all. It's listed down step by step. How you're going to do it. If you want to do UX fishbowl, it's all there on the website. If you don't understand it, go and Google for it. Somebody would have blogged about it. If you still couldn't figure out, go into the Slack channel, ask people. If you want to see how it is done in action, go to YouTube and you can see, a group of 50 people doing, let's say, Troika Consulting, or Wisecrafts. And one of the things, I was in India last year, and then we had a room of about 100 people, and we did Troika Consulting, and it worked beautifully. And it's so the tool is so flexible, and it's so inspirational when you see a large group of people having purposeful and meaningful conversation. You simply just cannot ignore the fact that liberating structure can change your life and can change the way you work.
Cool. Yeah, really, really cool. Let's pick up here because Reka was already following our invitation. Sorry, our invitation to Slack, and she's saying the link doesn't work. Reka and everybody out there, for me it works. I was just checking it at the same time again, but I'm going to follow up with you also later again, okay, and send you an invitation because I'm already in the group. Maybe it's different, but I'm going to post that later. But let us now, looking at the time, you were mentioning Troika Consulting, and also the last time, if you remember, Henry was mentioning Troika Consulting to me, and I never tried Troika Consulting. Do you want to explain what Troika Consulting is about?
Sure. I might have a space for I think it's here. Okay. So this is if you can see in my
Whoa.
sharing. So in this activity that I created for a client, I combine Troika Consulting with 15% solution. So what it is that so in liberating structure, if you combine structures, it's called a string. So you can create an entire 1 day workshop with multiple different structures, and you just can like string it along, and you have a fantastic event. So in this case, the idea with Troika Consulting is, Troika again is a tree. So how can you create a moment or an opportunity for us, perhaps as colleagues or as teammates or a group member, to help each other out, in the sense that in a group of three, one person can be a client with a problem and the other two-person can be consultants. The whole activity is around the client to share their problems and the consultant to give ideas, but there is a process to it. The thing that the client need to do is they can only listen and not and not join the conversation with the consultant. So the consultant may talk, and the client listens and write it down. And one of the cool thing about Troika Consulting is that when the consultant is talking, the client has to turn around and not look at the consultants, and everything is going behind, and the only thing that the client can do is write it down. So this is how you do it in real life, and you can actually do it in online as well, in a virtual environment. So perhaps you get the consultant to turn off the camera, or the client to turn off camera. Either way will work, and you kind of like mimic how it is in person. So the thing is, it truly, you as a facilitator, it gives them, the people in the room, a moment to focus on listening to potential solutions. Sometimes, in a meeting back in the office, we tend to just talk over each other. I've got a better idea. I've got a better idea. Perhaps this idea is better. So we are always talking over each other. But in this case, the idea is, can we truly pause and listen to others' opinion? You may or may not want to follow the idea. It's really up to you. But give a chance to others to to give input to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really nice. I just had 2 weeks ago, a week before Henry, there was Joel Silverstone with me here on this LinkedIn, and Joel was talking about listen to influence. And it was such a great, we were doing a few improv exercises, online activities. So just to think about our listening skills, that we also, because sometimes we're just eager to contribute our ideas, but we don't really realize how we're overstepping, and then sort of everything gets chaotic. And that's the point. Even though liberating structures are liberating, they're also very structured, right? And that's the
Yes.
fun thing about it.
Yeah, and it goes back to my earlier point about listening is actually a critical leadership skills. Because we may not always have all the answers. I mean, the world is a lot more complicated than it is 5 years ago. We may not be able to solve the problem on our own. So the only thing that we can do is truly listen to the experts, the people in our team, and give them that moment in the sun, and we just step back and listen. And perhaps your role is to mesh up ideas, and you guys can come up with new innovation. You never know. But most importantly, we are listening as leaders.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm going to listen now to Tarsila here because she left a beautiful
Oh.
comment. Barbara and Isman, hello. Happy to meet both of you guys. Yesterday, we were talking about liberating structures in virtual space at Isman's workshop. Great experience and totally recommend it for everyone. So, yes, we're going to post later on Isman's workshops. I also totally recommend them to you. Thanks a lot, Tarsila, for sharing. And by the way, Tarsila is a collaboration superpower hero, and she's joining me by the end of November. We are online, and we're online in Spanish about
Oh,
remote work. Yeah, we're going to talk about trabajo remoto.
you didn't share that with me, Tarsila. You kept a secret from me.
Ah, sometimes we need to keep a few secrets, right? Super cool. Let me come back to this Miro wall now. So, Isman, we talked about Troika Consulting. How do you integrate or use the Miro wall that you're showing us now? So, this is one team we're seeing here, correct?
That is correct. So, the whole idea with building using Miro as a tool for conversation is to create a focal point. In the real world, we sit in a room, we sit around a table, we can look at each other. But in a virtual environment, is a lot more difficult because you have a limitation of technology. But by simply giving a space for everyone, with their name on it, and like a dedicated space, like kind of like saying them, you are sitting here with three other people. It brings out a sense of, wow, I'm in a room with this group of people, and there's a middle of the table. Like, I'm gonna go back to one to for all. There is a middle of the table that we are in, and this is where we are going to discuss our problem. This is where we are going to talk about potential solutions. So you kind of like creating that space for people to to interact, to engage, and and just be uh, you know uh, visually, how to say that, visually stimulated. Otherwise, I can go into a breakout room, and in a lot of cases, sometimes people don't like to turn on their cameras. You're seeing a black screen. If that is happening, but because you have a mirror, the visual tool like this, it kind of like takes away that the black screen on Zoom. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole idea around using Miro to support conversations.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. Thanks a lot for sharing that again. And it's fun because just recently I had one of my contacts commenting on a post that I did about a virtual facilitation. She was saying, well, I was just in a session about cultural intelligence, and everybody had the camera switched off and nobody was talking during the whole session. So you would suggest that, for example, and I'm not sure, Amelie, if you're there, I'm going to let you know anyways what we're discussing now if you can't watch it right now. But so in this case, you would also say that Miro could be a facilitator for those who might feel uncomfortable or might not have the bandwidth to switch on the camera?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days of this whole interesting year, the pandemic year, as a facilitator who is so used to seeing people in a classroom, and seeing their faces, and the my first workshop where people turn off the camera, that is like, so it's so crazy. Like, I can't see you, I can't react to you, and I'm, as a facilitator, I feel like I'm an entertainer. If an entertainer cannot see the crowd, I do not know how to react. But I've done, in fact, earlier today, I had a classroom of 12, and out of that 12, 9 people in the room decided not to turn on the camera. But I respected that. Again, perhaps because of the bandwidth, perhaps because of their culture is different.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's Miro with everybody's name on it, and they are all interacting on it, they are conversing using sticky notes, using their actions on the board, it takes away the awkwardness of not being able to see you. I can see that it's truly happening. Even though you might see, you may not be able to see it now, but even though if it's just pointers moving in the room, at least you know they are interacting with your content, with the spaces that you created. So it kind of
Mm-hmm.
help you as a facilitator as well, and it kind of help the audience as well to kind of focus the attention on a space where it is active and is moving, and I want to be a part of it.
Absolutely, and it also reminds me because, and I'm going to share now one of my few mirror walls compared to your hundreds out there. I'm just going to share the one mirror wall that I created, and we also talked with Joshua briefly about it because I created a mirror wall to facilitate a world cafe, and it just reminds me what you were saying now, that the mirror wall helped me to give a space and help connect people in the space. And so what I did here, for example, is it is a template that I'm going to share with Virtual Space Hero members to how to organize engaging virtual events. And I'm using Miro as the example on how we can create a space for everybody to come here. So for example, to see what is going on, and I also guide them through, start here, so they know where to go to. They see, okay, we have planned a networking, a check-in, we have a keynote planned, small groups, and then of course in a very agile way we can move that to the next column where it says ongoing whenever we are doing that, or whether we are in the check-in. And we can also then move to the next activity. We have networking lounges also with the direct links embedded here, whether it's Zoom, whether it's Jitsi, or whether it's Microsoft Teams. You can always link it directly here, and people come to a networking session. I have a picture activity that I usually like doing at the beginning, because also visualizations, I like to ask them, so what do you associate with the virtual space and why, helps people to connect maybe through something different. So it's a different icebreaker at the beginning. And what I did then here in my Word Cafe board is I then built up the structure here for people to choose the discussion tables. And that's also, each discussion table is facilitated. So with different questions that I was using in this particular event, we have the netiquette here. And then when people join the discussion through the corresponding Zoom link, for example, they enter the Zoom link, and then the moderator all themselves use the sticky notes, and whatever they do, post their ideas here. So that's also something that it's a nice, and it reminds me of what you were saying, that it gives them a place where they are and where they can share their ideas, their activities. And we also have a feedback area integrated here, for example. And it's, I think what probably it could be missing here still is an area where people can set up their own profiles, right? That might be funny to have that. Like a networking area where everybody, remember, like in the distributed 2020 now with Miro, with that crazy wall of 1,000 people. I don't know how many there were.
They had like so the Miro distributed conference that happened last week, all the videos are up in YouTube. You guys might want to go to see that. So they had boarding passes for everyone, and there's a wall in space for like thousands of boarding passes, and that looks amazing. Again, it's about how do you give people an opportunity to to be part of that event, even though it's online, and create something that is of their own and giving them a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Isman, I'm checking on time. We still have about 5 minutes. So all of you out there, thank you so much for your active contributions. Please type in the last questions. We have Isman here with us like 5 more minutes, and we're going to discuss another board that you might want to share with us. We'd love to see that.
Okay. Sure.
And you
I'm happy.
also take the time to type in your questions or your comments as well. Thank you so much. I see Muhammad is joining from Pakistan. Professor Muhammad, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for the feedback there. So creative. We love the ideas. Thank you very much. And we're going for the last run of your ideas as well and your walls, Isman. Here we go.
So this is a 90-minute workshop where I use a couple of techniques from no, three techniques from Liberating Structures as well.
Whoa.
We kind of like started off. I used something called Tris. Tris is really cool. In this activity, you imagine, what is the worst possible future that you can create, and then what is that worst future, and then you work, you kind of like work backwards and say, what are you going to do to make that worst future happen. What is that behavior, attitude, or things that you're going to do to make that worst future happen? In that sense, it's kind of like a reverse psychology. So you're going to say that I'm going to be lazy, I'm going to not do my work, I'm going to consume as much chocolate as possible. So you kind of think about that, and you have to reflect on, perhaps I should be doing the opposite to make sure that that thing that future would not happen. I combine that with, let me just show you in this space over here, what we call the conversation cafe. In a conversation cafe, it is a structured process where, again, it is about listening. I put people in a room, giving them a toy like this, like a teddy bear. So you only get to speak if you get to hold on to the teddy bear. So when you're done, you pass it on. So we can go for like 2 rounds or 3 rounds of a conversation that is, you start with a statement or a question, you go around the table, everybody's sharing their opinion, one person listen, one person speak, and everybody listen. Only at the last round, then you have an open conversation, and this in this way, you get to hear everybody's ideas, everybody's opinion, before unlike the U.S. presidential debate like a few weeks ago, this is a much more civilized approach to getting ideas out there.
I love that.
So
But let me help me understand. How do you pass on the teddy bear? So the people who are there, they just drag and drop it or to themselves, or how does it
yeah.
work?
So, if I want to talk, okay, I'm going to speak first. I'm Isman, so I'm going to talk. I'm done. So I'm going to pass it on to the next one. I'm going to pass this teddy bear to Melanie. Melanie, it's time for you to speak. It's a simple, it's a simple tool where, it's kind of a nice visualization as well. Oh, it's my turn, and I get to speak. I have the power of the teddy bear, and then I'm going to give it to the next person when
The
I'm done.
power of the teddy bear. I
Teddy
love
bear.
that.
Uh,
Cool.
how many more minutes do we have? Do you have one more? Can I
Yes,
show you
let's
one?
go for that.
Okay. And this is drawing together. Again, this from Liberating Structure. In life, in reality, some of us can speak really well. I can't, but some of us can have great speaking skills, great visualization skills, and we tend to dominate the room. So in drawing together, we are starting out with everyone with the same tool, and I give them a space. Okay, let's reflect on something. In this case, I ask a question: how has your journey been towards being the best educator in the world? So everyone gets a circle, get a rectangle, goal, and a spiral thing, and a star, and then they kind of like create this picture as a metaphor, and then they can share with each other. So in this case, you kind of like democratizing the process of conversation and sharing ideas, and not allowing people to be comfortable that we are all starting on the same on the same ground. We are all starting with the same tools, and let's go from there. Right.
Mm, mm, mm. Fantastic. And we get amazing feedback there, Isman, for you. So the teddy bear is like the talking stick.
It is.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see that. The teddy bear power goes along there. Thanks a lot, Veronica. Absolutely. We see there another compliment for you. Great example of user-centered design. And then we have an abbreviation that I'm not so sure. TBP?
Teddy bear power, I think.
Ah,
I
I
should.
was like, to be pronounced, prolonged. Maybe Isma, this is to be prolonged, our talk, because they know we are at the end of the 42 minutes knowledge bite.
I should trademark this. I should trademark a teddy bear power.
Teddy bear power, we love it. Oh, a tremendous conversation. Thank you so much. A lot of learnings there. And we see here another comment from one of our viewers. Thank you so much. Using metaphors is a powerful tool. Absolutely. And let's pick up on one last comment. Amazing visualizations. Thanks a lot, Reka. Yes, thanks a lot for sharing everything there. It is really tremendous. And there is one question that I'd like to pick up, Isman. It's from Veronica. How do you draw then together? There was the last question here.
So if I can share my screen again, just to
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So the Miro tool is flexible enough. For example, if this is my space, I can, I can put this thing around. Okay, maybe I get to do something like this or like this. I may add on, let's say, I can link this to this, like put in an arrow like this. Oh wow, there's a big arrow like that, and I can create, a picture that represents my thoughts, like I said, using metaphors. Maybe in this, it looks like a wagon that is shooting for the stars. I don't know what it means in real life, but it probably means something for someone. So as you can see in this space over here, where people, start to create it, whatever it is, it's okay. It mean, we all may not be artistic. We all may not have the drawing skills, but simple tools like this can help us to have, to help us to share our ideas.
Mm. You know what I once did, and it also worked perfectly. I was trying to do the tower building, team building activity, and I was just creating a space for each team on a mirror wall where they had different elements, and then they had time to build not the highest but the most creative tower. So I gave it a different. It wasn't about speed as you do it usually in a normal training, but it was rather about creativity, and the outcome was tremendous. It was really, really great. So also
Yeah.
that there are no limits for our creativity. And yes, Veronica is mentioning, it reminds me of Lego Serious Play, but with drawing. Absolutely. That's it. And as Isman mentioned at the beginning, he's also a Lego Serious Play trainer, facilitator, right?
Yes, I am actually. So again, great. The patterns for great conversation is quite similar in Liberating Structure, in Lego Serious Play, in Ours. So yeah. So again, look out for them. And one of my tricks is to combine Lego Serious Play with Liberating Structure, with things from design thinking, and you make your workshop, your training experience really, really fun.
I think there are, and also today we again discussed it, and that's sort of the quintessence a little bit also here, is there are no limits for our creativity and tools, even though maybe Miro was not built to do a drawing, Lego Serious Play, whatever. The point is there are no limits to our creativity. We just need to use the tools to and be creative on what kind of physical activities or activities from other sort of other facilitation streams we can embed in the virtual space. And there are really a lot of possibilities here. Amazing. Isman, we're getting a lot of thank yous here. Thanks a lot for all of
Thank
you
you,
for your
Veronica.
questions, for your comments. Isman, I'd love to invite you backstage. I have prepared sort of a virtual cocktail there for you. I'm being with you in, I think, 3 more minutes. Is that fine with you? So I
I will
hope
wait
to
for
see
you
you
then.
there. Great.
Right.
Don't leave me. I'm going to see you there. And with that, we're saying goodbye to Isman. And thank you so much to be a guest on the virtual space here at LinkedIn Live. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Good to meet you virtually.
Bye. Oh, it was amazing. Thank you so much. It was really a fantastic session. And I'm super happy about all the comments, the experiences we shared on how we use Miro or other tools in the virtual space. And you see, it confirms at the end that we need to be creative, but we can do so many things. And sometimes it's even a more inclusive environment that we can create in an online setting. We just need to be creative and facilitate it properly. So what is happening next week? I'm over the moon because also next week, again, I'm going to the Asian part of the world. I have Melanie with me from the Learning Gym. Melanie, yeah, and I see Isman backstage, yes. I love that. Melanie is the founder of the Learning Gym, and she's also an amazing facilitator. She's currently, as far as I know, still traveling through Switzerland because they got stuck in the pandemic here in Europe. But usually they're based in Asia. And we're going to talk about facilitation in the virtual space as well. So don't miss that. Thank you so much for joining. And thanks a lot for your feedbacks as well. Fab session again. Thanks a lot for the insightful session here from Reka. It was a tremendous pleasure, and I see you very soon in the virtual space next week, the latest. Thank you. Bye.